Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. And we have another awesome guest today to talk about just living an ordinary life and having extraordinary things happen. And how do you incorporate extraordinary into your current life? So today, please give a warm welcome to Julie Severn. Hi, Julie.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well. Very well. Thank you.
Awesome. So Julie and I connected, I think through Facebook, and just, being that the couple decades older than some of these other folks that are out there and more seasoned and experienced with things, you gravitate towards that. And we became friends on Facebook, and turns out we have a lot of mutual friends. And the beautiful thing about all this is there's so many different ages blending together, and age is it's just a word for something. It's irrelevant when it comes to the healing and the energy work that we are all on the bandwagon with. So what are your thoughts on all that? And tell us a little bit about you, Miss Julie.
All right. Well, I completely agree. I turned 65 in August and started collecting my pension, and I don't even feel like I'm 65. I feel like I'm still 20. But that there are some little drawbacks to that part because I've been working spiritually for a long time. And it's just really interesting because I knew from the time that I was a young child that I was going to have a car accident, and it was going to be a life changer. And I trusted that I lived and I survived and I did well. So I did have it in 2003. I was hit head on by a semi-trailer truck, and I knew it was coming, and I knew that I survived. I had a dream that morning that told me that they had to get me out of the vehicle with the jaws of life. And yes, they did. What they didn't say was I died in the vehicle twice. And then when they rushed me down to a big center, Vancouver, I was in there for a month in the ICU. 4 teams operated on me for 9 hours. And I had 60 to 70 shattered bones, even the broken C2 fracture, which is called the hangman fracture. So that was really big. And I spent the 1 month in that hospital. Then they brought me back up to my city, where I stayed for 2 months in that hospital. And I had to learn how to sit up, walk, chew, eat, swallow, everything again, because your body forgets how to do that when things happen. So that was really big, but I knew I was okay. So I trusted and went out that day, and I was fine. I got through it. I did it. And I learned a lot from it. I also realized that, when that happened, there was a huge being flying behind my vehicle, chasing after me and trying to get me to go into the dark. And when I passed in the car, God said, you need to realize something. You needed to die to survive.
Wow.
So that's what happened.
Ooh, I get chills everywhere.
Yeah, it was a big one. So learning everything that I learned was very huge for me and very powerful. And all it did was ramp up my abilities because they were strong before I had the accident. So they got even stronger and even more powerful and more knowing and more seeing. But it changed in a way that was quite different for me, because it became that I didn't just bring the energy through or channel or do anything. It just was. So anything I ever needed to access or do just came through, and I didn't have to worry about, putting myself into a trance-like situation. The answers just come. So I access the Akashic records. I access all past lives for people if they need them. I can see them. They actually play for me like a movie. It's quite interesting. And then, whatever else that needs to be done, I do body work for people, because I'm really of a strong opinion that, and feeling that if we are going to be doing something for someone, it's got to be the 4 body. It can't just be the emotional or the spiritual. We've got to work with everything to make sure that they are getting all that they require.
Right.
So to me, that's an important part of this, of the work we do with people, because they are spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional. And what I'm watching is, before, you used to see the aura would stick out naturally. Unnaturally, it can be right across the road, but naturally it's usually about 18 inches out from you if you're awake. Now it's required for it to be 6 inches out from you because what it's doing is all four are merging into the physical. So as that's happening, we are noticing there's a change in how we are doing things, you know, big changes actually. So I really like working individually with people. I do lives on my own mind, body, spirit healing group. And I do those on Mondays and Wednesdays at 1:00 PST time. I do those mostly every week because it's teaching. I'm just teaching people how to find their own powers, and it's working. They are getting amazing. Yeah. That's what I love.
Yeah, and I think the key here is the empowerment of others, that everybody has this within them if they just, take a moment to access it. It was interesting when you were talking about your car accident and how you were given a premonition that this might occur, not knowing the degree of which it would occur. The morning that I had mine, I didn't have a premonition about it, but my daughter did. She was 5 at the time. And we were driving and I was collecting groceries and things for my office and so on. And she kept saying, don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. And I just kept saying, I'm just going to make one more stop. I was ignoring her because I was in this. And I had my Suburban hit by a giant cable truck and broke my seat in half and 180'd me into oncoming traffic. Now, fast forward a few days after that, I was able to get away with, musculoskeletal stuff. But I went back to the accident where I drive by every day by this place. And I would instinctively looked up and I said, you're not taking me out. You're not taking me out yet. So this is back in like 2000. And then a few months later in a healing session, it started coming back up again. And I almost feared going back through the accident again.
Yeah.
But something said, you must go through this. And when I did, I literally saw 3 light beings come down, one on each side and in the back. And they gently, literally 180'd my car because I was awake watching it in slow motion. So now it made so much sense that they came actually to protect me.
Yep.
And instinctively, and I will say from then on out, I listened to my instincts and I listened to my daughter.
Oh yeah.
And she loved to remind me of, you need to listen to me.
Yeah.
Because she came in from, speaking to the other side and very, very connected. And of course, at that time in the 90s and early 2000s, there was no support team for any of that.
No.
It was a learning experience for me to work with her because I was working with the mini me, number one, and number two, it helps me work with the other children too.
Yes.
But, back to the empowerment, of doing your lives and things like that, the important thing of that is to just share experiences and how to access things. And, we all have it. We're all special. It's not a unique group it just happens to be a group of people who, like us, who've come in like this with just their abilities turned on. It's not a gift. It's just, they were just turned on sooner. And we've had to go in and out of that dimmer switch. Oh, I can show it here. Oh, I can't show it here. So you were saying that you had this as a small child when we were talking earlier. So would you like to talk about that? And maybe some other people in our audience will have similarities to what you and I had.
Well, I used to see a lot of things when I was a little girl, and I used to tell my mother about it, and she told me to stop doing it. It was bad. And because it scared her, because I could see things nobody else could see. And she didn't like it. It frightened her very much so. And, but the funny thing is as I got older and I had shut it all off, she turned it on. And the next thing you know, we're watching Chariots of the Gods and Edgar Casey and stuff. So, and she actually had books written by Edgar Casey that she read, the whole books. And I actually got them after she passed away. But it was so interesting because my mother always said, that I'm from Sirius. I'm not from here. She always knew, but she wouldn't ever let me talk about it when I was young. And then as we got older, I talked about it with her like crazy. And then she really opened up like a flower. It was amazing. But it was wonderful to see because my dad was always really closed. And it was really funny when I started in the 90s and I decided I wanted to start speaking out and doing things and, getting comfortable with my spirit and being able to talk about it. Because right off the bat, next thing I know, I'm working psychic fairs. I'm on stages talking to hundreds of people. I've got no fear. It all just moved right in. And it was like, nope, we're doing this. And it was really interesting because I told my parents that I was going to go and see Cryon, Lee Carroll. He's a friend of mine. I was going to go see him in Parksville on Vancouver Island. And my parents were so concerned with this cult that I had joined that they came with me to see Cryon. They never knew what Cryon was about. And after it was all over, my dad said, well, I can see this isn't a cult and it's quite nice, isn't it?
So this had to be what, in the late 80s, early 90s?
Early 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think Lee started really coming on about the late 80s. And I know I listened a few times, but then life just took me in a different direction. And I reconnected with him later. But that's awesome because your parents were meant to go with you.
Yeah. And it was really interesting because I voraciously read all the Cryon books. And those were probably the last books I read. I haven't read any spiritual books since the 90s. And I don't read any of them because I was told by my guides, stop it. Don't you read any spiritual books any longer because it won't have integrity if it's not coming from you.
Yes.
So, and I don't say things that other people say. I say things other people don't say. So I have been told what to say and how to do it and how to make sure that I'm doing it so that people can see that this is actually breaking down the paradigms and changing and shifting them into their spirit so they can get out of that human miasma that they're sitting in and unable to understand. So what I do is I say things nobody's going to say. Like I've written a book called Linear to Zigzag and it's for sale on Amazon. And it's a book about healing this planet human. And it is absolutely, completely the antithesis of a lot of things that people say now, and it's very interesting because it's not that I mean to not say what everybody else is saying. It's just that I get a different take on it. And I feel the integrity of what I say. And when I say it, I know I get the shivers like everybody else, So I say what comes to me and it's just whatever it is.
Well, you're getting direct messaging. That's the key. And I know when I used to get messages as a child and I would say them to my mother never gave credit to anything or anyone unless it came from someone else that she respected.
Yeah.
So I learned to lie. I learned to say things and say, oh, well, Mrs. So-and-so said that. And then my mom would be like, oh, it was just an automatic thing that I knew that she was not going to believe me if it came out of my mouth. So I used to say other people said it. And, I think it was about 2017, I asked Spirit to just erase everything that I've ever learned and was ever taught, that I wanted directly messaging. So I like you, don't read a lot of books. No. I don't tune in to a lot of people. I'm very selective on who I would listen to.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is any messages that come through and I put videos out, I may later skim across something and they're getting the same message. And all it does for me is go, okay, I'm along the same lines as everybody else, but I don't necessarily use the same verbiage.
No.
Other people do.
No.
And so that's awesome that you do that, Julie. Yes. More authenticity.
We have to do this kind of stuff. I mean, I've written another book called What Child Is This? And this is about Jesus with his wife and children. And it's finished, but it's in editing. And I've got another book I'm writing now that is the sequel to it called The Son of God, S-U-N of God, about Jesus. It's a trilogy. And when it's finished, I'll get it published, but it's really very, very radical compared to what the Bible says, and poor Jesus was a eunuch in the Bible. The poor guy couldn't do anything, and here he had a wife and 4 children and then got married twice. He did marry Mary Magdalene the second time. The first time was an Egyptian woman. So it's just the story I tell is quite interesting, but it's all given to me by them. And I'm like, I always wondered for a while, how do I see this stuff in here? Like, how do I know what she's doing and what he's doing and what they're doing? And
right.
I don't feel like I'm any of them. I'm not any of them. I just know their story. So how is that? And I was told the reason I do is because I've got direct access to everyone's Akashic records, and I can see everything like a movie. So when I'm writing the book, I'm actually seeing it happening in front of my face while I'm writing about it. It's quite something.
I think that's awesome. And you're one of the few people that I share that common thing where, and I call him Yeshua, where we have that connection with him. And as a small child, I was raised in a religious background. And so if we had to read the Bible, I would say, but he never said that. He never said that. And I would get, first of all, you didn't talk back, and you didn't argue with the Bible or your parent. But I say, he didn't say that. He never said that. So for the longest time, I had to be quiet. So every time it was read, I'd be like, ugh. And then it would come to my turn to read it. And it was so hard to get those words past my lips because as a truth teller, it was just so wrong. And so, he's come through on many occasions for me. So how would you know that? How would I know that? How do certain people know that are actually getting just a little bit of a twist or a story compared to what we've been indoctrinated to believe, right? So I look forward to seeing that book just to have a spin on it, because as we know, there's never a one truth, right? There's never a one truth. So the thing is, are you comfortable enough to get out of the box and take in other information and then allow the physical body and the bodies to allow it to process without owning it?
Yep.
It's like, okay. So what else you got for us today, Julie?
Well, you're gonna love this one. I've been writing about this and I will be expanding on it because what's happening is what I'm seeing, the ascension process that everybody feels they're going through isn't really what they think it is at all. The ascension, each of us as a human, each of us as a God self, we're already ascended. We have been fragmented by the darker aspects to remove some of our abilities, but not remove them, just change us around on a DNA and genetic level so that we would actually not have the power that we should have. There are some of us who were born with that already intact, and that was part of the plan. The plan was for all of us who have that intact to teach others how to bring it back to intact. And so what I'm seeing is this rising up or the ascending of your DNA, your chakra, and your kundalini, all to come up and settle right into the pineal gland to allow it to open itself wide to bring the power through. And things were moved and changed on us due to, and it was with our permission, to help us to try and find a way to get back to it, to help us to find our inner power, our inner wisdom, our inner knowing. And so regardless of how we feel about the deep state or the reptilians or any of those beings, we must understand all was done in agreement with each other. Nothing we've done was done to really totally harm us for the rest of our lives. It was done to awaken us to our higher selves, who we really are. So there's that. So that ascension, the rising up, is actually, the planet is bringing us into balance, because what's going on is there's a timeline for that. There's a date stamp on your pineal to this now to pop it open. And you can feel that as I say it. It's true. We are feeling our feelings more and more. We are opening to who we are more and more, regardless of the people who are sleeping. It's still happening on such a grand scale. Whether they like it or not, it will happen for them too. Yes. So this is a date stamp on us to actually mature at a certain point. And I feel like it's Christmas this year for some reason, around this time of year. I feel like that date stamp is really going to pump very quickly and open right up, because people whether they like it or not, the pineal is receiving the Kundalini. Now the DNA, it needs to absolutely keep expanding itself to as many strands as it can, because it's going to go up to over 200 strands on everyone, which will be lovely because it's going to be pure vision, pure knowing, pure everything at that point, right? So this is what we're working up to, but it's got to be a gradual process, because your body, whether you know it or not, is in a bit of shock over everything that's happened to us over the last 42,000 years, 450,000 years. So we actually got a 10,000 year dispensation on the whole of this. This should have been 52,000 years and it's only 42. So we changed the scenario and the whole dynamic of everything by having enough people awaken.
Yeah.
That was a gift for us to keep us continuing to awaken. And so there's that. The planet is now ascending to match with us. That's what's happening. The planet is healing her energy, and it is happening on a grand scale. And that's why it feels so awful. It does. It feels awful because we're vibrating at a different level. The planet's vibrating at a different level. When you're walking out in the road or I go walking by the river every day, and I can feel it in the planet as she's vibrating differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge shift that's happening to every one of us. And it's time for us to just give permission and allow that to happen, because we are really changing that much. And a lot don't know it, but they are.
Yeah, and for many of us who, wherever we are on this process, some of us are more awakened and feel maybe more hypersensitive than someone else. And there are times when I'm like out in the general public looking around at what I assume are sleepers in different places, and I'm like, maybe I just want to go over there and hide for a little while, because this is a lot of work to maintain and set your intention and be of integrity and know that everything about you, everything that you, every thought, every ounce, every drop, every drip is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you become not so mindful and then go about your business and start doing things, and you realize, oh, now, if I just backed up a little bit and connected in a different way, would I have reacted or responded in all the ways that I just did? So every step I take, whether it's upstairs, downstairs, going out of my house, I align myself so that I am in that breath of divinity as much as possible. But then we know we have to sometimes put on little faces wherever we are, but still maintain all of this sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And know when to speak and when not to speak, because sometimes I'll be told, don't say anything. It just will not process.
No. And there's a time and a place, and that time and a place, when you're ready. But it's interesting, because I go walking out in the world, and for the last, in 2020, I was pulling everything in, through me, not in me. And I'm pulling my aura in so close that I can't feel your stuff, because I feel the stuff of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to feel that stuff, because it's so much fear. And then it gets to the point where, okay, is that mine or is that yours? I need to look at that and realize, okay, that's not mine. I'm not going to own it. I'm not taking it on. It doesn't belong to me. So then I give it back. But what I'm doing in the last year now is I've expanded that, and I've opened up my solar plexus area and my heart, and all the way up to my thymus. So when I go out, there's this ray, like looking like that, like a you know what I mean, coming out of me.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that purposefully now, because I'm out of all fear. I have no fear whatsoever. I don't feel any fear of anything. And all I desire to do is send that vibrational energy out to the people who are afraid. And you'd be surprised. I could be walking down the street. I see people in masks walking down the street. It makes my heart soar, So what I do is I send love. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm sending love to everybody, because I feel they're going to feel it when they're ready to pop. They'll feel it at some point, And that's all I want to do.
Exactly. And like you said, the more that this aura is coming in closer, the more I think we have the ability to be a little bit more detached of what is somebody else's versus ours.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
know for me, I'm at the point now where mask, no mask, child, adult, whatever the fear, resistance there's out there, I have literally no feeling about it. I just like that's
No.
where they are. That's cool. But the important thing is honing it into what I am and where I am
Yeah.
in this moment, because that's the job I came in to do, not for everybody else. I can assist if they want help, but I can't infringe upon that
No.
by
No.
being a converter or solicitor, as I call it. And
No.
and you can do that with your thoughts, like, judgment or like, oh, whatever it is. And so I just let all that
Well,
go.
I got some information from a very wonderful old native man yesterday, and he's passed on, but I knew him very well. And he had a really interesting message yesterday,
Mm.
because I use him for spiritual wisdom sometimes, because he was a shamanic person and he was a very wonderful man. I loved him very much. And it turned out in a past life we were married, so we're very close. And I know when he passed away I was very heartbroken. And but he came yesterday and he said to me, you have choices on how you do things in life. You can act or you can react. There's a whole different energy to the two things. So if you take right action, light action, your it turns into a different energy than if you just react and then take action from that, because a reaction is a negative thing and a positive thing is action. So how we have our heart set or our mindset while we're in the middle of this whole kerfuffle going on the planet, we have to understand that it is the most personal job ever. Whatever we're doing, it has to be done on the inside of us in order for it to project outwards to help other things. So how I feel about when something happens in my reality or in someone else's reality, what am I doing? Am I acting or am I reacting? Am I paying attention to my feeling on it or my take on it, whatever that is? So, we're looking at this right now because my friends who are staying with me were flooded out in a terrible flood.
Mm.
And we were talking about how we act or how we react when we're doing the cleanup or when we're doing anything. How do we put that energy? Is it with spirit when we do anything? Even as little as making a pie. Put your spirit into it. Make that pie with so much love that whoever eats that pie heals. There's nothing wrong with that. It's all learning how to put that reality into everything you do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's super important to infuse our foods with spirit and for the highest integrity and intention. And that's really what blessing is all about. It's not
Mm.
just thank you for the food, it's from beginning to end to processing. I
Yeah.
know, like at Thanksgiving, I have a family, and we had 30 people, and I knew that conversations of political
Oh,
or the current situation of, this or not this was not going to come up. It was never going to come up. Everyone was welcome and so on. But I had to make a dish that I've never made before, and it's not one of my favorites. So what I did is I blessed the kitchen. I blessed every item that was going to go into that. And I
yeah.
literally peeled every potato and blessed every ingredient that went in that with the highest coded integrity of the creator source of love, just love vibration. And no matter who looked at it or touched it or ingested it, would just feel that love. That whole dish was just raved about all day long. And I'm thinking, I didn't even eat any because I don't care for it. But I'm so glad that everybody else enjoyed it. And I know why. It's
Yeah. You
because of
blessed it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what that will do. That will actually shift the energy of it and turn it into pure love and healing for whoever's going to eat it. It's going to be taken by their body and take them to their highest good because of what you infused into it.
Yes.
And that has to be done in all that we do. Like I have stones, I have crystals that I infuse with certain energy that I put into my water jug to bless my water, to take it to its highest good. So when you drink the water, it tastes like holy water. It doesn't
Yeah.
taste like, I mean, it actually bubbles in your mouth. It's amazing. Learning how to use things to help you. I've got stones in the house that I use that I programmed to keep the energy in the house nice and safe, because I can't remember to do it all the time.
Yeah.
That's a human construct. I can't remember how to do it all the time.
Yes.
I always teach people to do this stuff, but do I remember to do it all the time? So what
Well, the
I do
thing
is
is, once you've infused it and done it, it doesn't mean you have to keep going back. Now, if you're
No.
called to go back and do a refresh, is what I call
Yeah.
it, because of something switching, fantastic. But it's you can reach for that already knowing that has been instilled in there, and you're going to receive all the things of that intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, someone will say to me, well, your house just always feels so homey. It just feels like when I come here, I just feel so comfortable. Well, it's because I've set the energy for it to be that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that my house is more beautiful than anybody else's. It's really not. It's just a house, but it's comfortable, and I've made it a home, and I've made it a place where everything is blessed. So when people come here, they fall asleep a lot. Like they'll actually be sitting on my couch and they'll lay down, fall asleep.
Yeah.
And they don't know why, but they go into a sleep that is comfortable for them, because this house has energy set in it, so that because it's got to be set for me. I'm not going to live in a place that I haven't got the energy so that it's what I desire for it to be,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I also have it set too, so that if anybody who is negative, they can't enter this house. They just can't. And it's really interesting. I did it when I used to work as the treasurer of the regional district. Before I did this, I was in my linear job. I was a bean counter, and it was very interesting because I had the chairman of my board was a very negative and angry and always bullying me kind of person. So one day I set the energy in the office, my personal office, and I said, only love and light can enter this room. Anything that is negative may not come in here any longer. And I heard him footfall down the hallway, coming right to my office just after I did it. And I saw his foot come like it was going to come through the door and land. And it stopped in midair. And he swiveled and turned around and went down the hallway and didn't come in.
Well, that was just a little confirmation that what you did worked, right?
And I do it for everybody.
Yeah.
I did a house for this family one time, because they moved into this house and the person who had lived in it passed away. And their little 5-year-old boy wouldn't sleep in his bedroom, wouldn't go up there, wouldn't go upstairs. He wanted to sleep on the floor right by his mom and dad. He developed asthma and rashes in that house.
Oh.
So she said to me, can you come and bless my house? So I went into the house, and it was really rough energy. I blessed it. I went all the way everywhere, all 3 floors, up and down. And it was very interesting. She never told him I did it. He came home from school that day, and he walked in the door and he went, hi, Mom. And then he goes running upstairs to his room, never gone up there before, and started playing with his toys. And then he came downstairs about a half an hour. She's just sitting there going, he came downstairs about a half an hour later, and he says, did they get the ones that chased me up the stairs from the basement too? His mom said, yes, she did. And he went downstairs and he goes, this is good.
Oh.
His asthma went away, and so did his rashes, and he slept in his room forevermore. I mean, these are confirmations of what really can happen, and what really does happen. And it's so nice to see a child actually feels that, sees it, and knows it, and gets comfort from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And our kids are we've got to get in there and be the tribal leader for their parents and for the kids. And I thought I was done working with kids, and then I went back into the energy work, and I was gearing towards adults, and then Spirit brought in right away, what about the kids? And I went, oh, really? Because now I got to work with the parents, and it's time consuming. And Spirit was like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, I'll incorporate it in. And it's actually quite joyful.
It is. I love working with kids. I love it. I did 3 sessions this summer out at a native band, and I've been working with them for a long time. And I went out there, I did 2 sessions with children and then 1 session with elders. Both I just adore, because the children are so open. I'll look at them and I'll say, oh, so you see all the things working through the sky, don't you? You see the spirit energy, you see the little people, and they all go, Yeah, they do. They don't tell anybody because they don't tell anybody because they don't think anybody's going to listen to them. And so when I look at them and I say, you see this, and they go, yeah, how did you know? And it's so neat because they really do see it. So I'll actually bring forth a spirit of some energy so they can see it. And working with them and doing that is just amazing. I also have learned wildcrafting from working out there. So I wildcraft all the time here. I make tinctures and salves and all kinds of things.
Nice.
So there's wonderful healing to all of it. That's the whole 4-body thing, again, because we need to pay attention to that. Whatever we're doing on a spirit level, we've got to realize everything's incorporating into us. So that means that we want to do 4-body level, look after everything, bless everything we're doing, and put that energy into it so that it actually becomes a healed part rather than a damaged part. And here's another part to this healing. You as a God, because every one of us is a God. Mm-hmm. We're all a piece of God. We're all God. You as a God are a creator God. You create and manifest whatever your heart desires. So why do we sit here? We go to bed at night and say we've got a bit of a headache, or we've got a backache, or our foot hurts, or whatever. Why do we let that happen? Why can't we just go, and I do this all the time. I get into bed. Okay, anything that's hurting in my body, I demand and command it's healed and gone now. Just like that, the pain goes away out the window. It's gone. You don't know you've got that power until you learn it. And I did it with a bunch of people on a live one day. I said, okay, what's hurting? Demand and command the pain goes away. And they all did. And they all went, it's gone. You have that capability, but nobody has told you. And your higher self's not going to tell you until you can connect. And that is also above 3D, right?
Yes.
It's above 3D. Now, there's another aspect to that. As you stay 3D, you still have angels. They still stay. As you progress, you get to 4D, the angels stay there. They can't be there with you because they are meant to actually hold you at 3D. And as you rise up, they disappear. Mine disappeared years ago, and I got kind of upset. So I went in and I said, what happened? They're gone. I had so many. They're gone. Where'd they go? And Spirit said, they don't vibrate with you any longer. You've gone too high. As you go higher and higher and higher, your higher self kicks in. So now I only have one light in my eyes. It's only one. Your higher self kicks in and you change. Interesting, eh?
Really interesting. And, what I was saying in 2017, when I said, please just cancel, alt, delete anything that I've learned, it wasn't too long after that, pretty quickly, I actually met my higher self and merged with my higher self.
Yep.
And it was extremely powerful. And then some things were occurring. And I said, you know what? No more self-sabotage, no matter if I've created it, not created. I went into traditional therapy. And so really all I did was talk during these sessions. And I remember one time saying, blah, 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 because I'm God. And the look on her face, it separated personal belief to professional belief. And so I finished saying what I was saying. And then I said, because we are all God, right? Because we're all a spark of God. And then she's like, yeah, I was wondering where you went with that. I was thinking maybe I needed to refer you to a psychiatrist or something. And I said, oh, you mean like the God complex? Or maybe, so to her, she didn't, but I knew what I was saying. And it just came out of my mouth. And so let's go back to this thing about the angels that you come in with. Once you start to elevate levels, that they dissipate and can't go with you. Now, my understanding is new guides and other levels come in, because it's just like school. You're not going to keep the first grade teacher for the fifth grade. You're not going to keep the fifth grade teacher for the 10th grade, and you're not going to have college professors coming in and teach in sixth grade. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will, because what's going on is there are earth angels that are here. They are fairies. They are our earth angels. And you can feel that when I say that, can't you? Yes. The little people, the elves, they exist. They're on a different dimension right now, but they do exist. the Pegasus, the unicorns, the satyrs, the fawns, the centaurs, all existed during the Lemurian times. They were the result of genetically modified beings, because they were genetically modified. And I'm even going to go further with this. Even the caveman was a genetically modified being during the Lemurian times. Was genetically modified and merged with something else. And I'm going to even go back to the dinosaurs and tell you that dinosaurs were not what we think they were. They were reptilian beings who were brought here to build this planet, to bring it to the construct it became, so that it would be able to be fit for human habitation. That was the role of the dinosaurs, was to go to every planet. And they worked there for quite a while to bring the planet into vegetation and to make it habitable for us. So they were taken off planet. They were never killed from a meteor shower. It's just amazing, the stories we've been told. And I just laugh at some of them because, I mean, it makes me laugh when you think about all of these stories that we've been told. And the stories from the Bible are stories about what really did happen, but they've been slanted by mankind in order to put controls on us. There were so many stories taken out of the Bible because they didn't want us to know. For instance, in 600 AD, they took out the reincarnation because they didn't want you to know. The Council of Constantinople did that. That was Alexander the Great. Now, didn't want you to know you could reincarnate and do it again. So you have these earth angels, you have these beings who are all a part of this. And they are all a part of our reality, but we don't know that. We just know that we like them, we love them. But if you understand the actual angelic realm, you wouldn't like the way they really looked. They've been shape changed to make you see them as one thing. But honestly and truly, what they really look like is very different than what they really are. And so if you think about the Bible and you think about the controls put into the Bible, the angelic realm was also developed by the Bible, wasn't it? So, yeah. So you want to call the fairy energy, the little people. You want to call the dwarves. You want to call the imps. You want to call the sprites. You want to call the tree energies, the plant energy. All of that is your angelic realm, isn't it? Really?
It totally is. And with the gift of sight, if I focus, all of these little beings appear in the tree. I mean, little people faces, fairies, just so many different things appear like an animated movie. And it's like, so like, I just want to hold that sight for the longest time. But anyway, please continue. This is very exciting.
People have been afraid for so long of the tree spirits or of the other beings because they were told that angels are all that is, but really they aren't. All they are is to hold you at 3D and to stop you from progressing. So it's a reptilian energy. When you think about it from that level, it is, because the reptilians are the ones who separated our chakras and our DNA and our kundalini all from our spirit and put them in different places in our body, along with placing a reptilian brain into us to keep us so that we would continue to follow the party line. Because the reality of the whole thing is that nothing any of us know to be true in our hearts or our minds is really true, because nothing that we see, I've actually sat here and looked at my recliner chair and dissolved it into nothing and put it back together. You can do this kind of stuff when you start realizing everything is your own construct. It's your own build-a-bear. It's your own, spiritual path. You can create things and uncreate them just like that. It's quite amazing, the capacity and the abilities of humankind. The superpower of humankind is love. It is love. Your superpower that you have as a psychic or as a person who can see and feel, that's the normal you. Your superpower is unconditional love. And that is something that no one else has except for the human, is that unconditional love. Your dog has it. Your cat has it. Sometimes the cat has it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just, we all have that. But the reptilians and the draconians do not have that. Nor do they have a soul that is like ours. That is why they aspire to ours. They want what we have, but they can't have it. You see? And we would like what they have to some degree because they can live for 1,000 years without any problems. And
Yeah, but they
we
live
like,
off us. They live off us, remember?
I know.
That's
I
why
know.
they got longevity.
Yeah, but we have that too. If you
Mhm.
go back to the Bible, you will see that Abraham and Sarah he was 900 years old and she was 700 when they first had their kid.
Right.
This is real. There really were giants. There really were little people. There were everything of everything. We were giants when we first got here. Did you know that?
No.
We were like 30 feet tall when we got here. Yes, we have. I told you, I've seen the history. It's quite something. It really is. And I can't even write a book about it that's going to be big enough, because it's going to be like 2 feet deep, because it's got so much stuff.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
look forward to reading them all. Keep going, Julie. Keep going. So
it's just
back to
crazy.
back to the interchangeable guide system. So we've already talked about the angels. They're basically in disguise to keep you here, be part of the plan of the not so evolutionary. And then we have the fairies, the elms, the elves, the gnomes, the would that be also the dragon kingdom and the unicorns and all that?
Everything.
I thought so. So then what about the new guides that come in? Are they the ones that are coming in more that because we're recognizing them? Or if the angels go, who's coming in?
Higher self. The higher self activates as soon as the guides leave. But you do still have your animal guides, so you still have your birds and your insects and your animals, dragons. I have 4 dragons. We have all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we access from now, because that is that earth connection, rather than, that earth connection is more important to us in this now than that angelic connection, because the angelic connection is not going to exist soon. It just won't exist. It won't be there for us, because we are no longer at that vibration. As soon as the last pineal gland pops, by angels, there won't be one left on the planet, not one. They're the only negative entities hanging around on the planet right now. All reptilian and draconia has been removed. They're gone. And I know this because I have been in constant battle with them for the last 2 years. Every night they've come to me and I vanquished them and sent them home to God. And I have worked with Moloch and Belial and Baal, the biggest demons, and they've come to me in my face, and I have sent them home with love.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you know what has happened with that? They came back to me about 2 months ago, and they said, maybe, I don't even know, it was 2 months ago. I can't even remember when it was, but it was really not that long ago, but it was neat. They came back to me in my face and they said, look at us now. You've turned us into what we are originally, bat fairies. And they helped to heal the planet, and they're helping us now. Rather than, so even the reptilians took them and changed them from what they originally were. Interesting, eh?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you're saying makes sense to just my own last 5 years. Once I did that cancel, alt, delete, how many things have changed. And then when my site came in to play, sometimes my twin on the other side will come and look like a person, but then he shifts into animals and different things. So he's just trying to get me used to what I feel comfortable seeing. But I was seeing so many animals. I'm like, why? What is all this?
Spirit guides.
And of course, a lot of them were animals that I don't really recognize from, like, say, my Earth time here, but yet they all seemed familiar to me. Yeah. So this is making a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, the guidance comes through from them much more than anything, because they recognize who and what you are, whereas the angels recognized who and what you are, but didn't ever desire for you to progress much further, because if you did, they're gone and you're up there where they can't get you anymore.
Yeah. And, Julie, this brings me to another question, and a thought too, is, so many people are on the galactic thing, right? Every galactic families, galactic things and all that stuff. And really what I never hear any of them talk about is the mix between the angels and the galactics. Like, oh, we're working with the angelic realm. Now I do hear like Archangel Michael. I will hear, the archangel type beings, because they're apparently different.
They
but
are.
I never hear like, oh, a channeled message from the Palladians or the Octorians saying, oh, and we're working with, they'll say we're working with other galactic families, but they never say, oh, well, we're working with your angels to help you. I've never heard that. And I used to say, okay, what's that about? And now
That's
it's kind of
exactly
making
what it's
total
about.
sense.
They know. They know that the angels never originated from anywhere but this planet. Never were they existing before until this happened. So it's not an angel isn't a universal being. It's only there for you, each person. I had 47 guides with me. And you know what? Only about 5 of them were angels. The rest of them were other things,
Yeah,
other beings.
And then the little people that I work with, they will talk about their guides and describe their guides, which can be a mix of a human, animal, something else.
Oh, yeah.
And they never say angel ever. Oh, they'll never say, they'll say it might have wings or something like that, but they never ever have said that. And these are kids between 4 and like 8 that literally come from families that are not religious. They don't watch a lot of television. They're mindful with what they eat, but they're just so highly intelligent, the stories that they tell me. And not one of them, now that I think of it, has said, oh, well, that one's my angel and this one's my guide. It's just their guides.
Yes. But these kids are coming in with this really big knowledge because they're little warriors being born, little star seeds. And what they're doing is they're coming in completely awake. So it's nothing. I mean, I had a client come to me one time and it was a young woman and she had this little 3-year-old boy. And I'll never forget this. She was French Canadian and she moved out here to British Columbia. And she says to me, she says, I don't know what to do with my little fella. She says, he keeps speaking in native, the Shuswap language here. He's 3. He was born in Quebec. They moved him out to here. And all of a sudden he starts speaking in native to her. And he looks at her and he goes, they shouldn't have built those houses right there because that's a burial ground. And that was a mistake. And she's like, what the heck? So she brings him to me. And I said, you need to take him to an elder on the res. You need to do that. And she goes, what do I do that? I said, so he can go talk to her and find out what the heck. She took him to meet an elder on the res. And this little boy spoke in Shuswap and the old lady understood him.
Woo, chills everywhere.
Yeah, because they come in fully awake. And if you keep them awake, they won't talk to their angels. They'll be talking to their guides, their spirit guides, their totems, whatever. They won't notice it's an angel because they know deep in their hearts, those are gone.
Yeah.
They know, but they are so connected. They have past life memories. Like I told my mom so many things. And, it was years and years later after I was working with my spirituality, I was meditating. And I know my mom never wanted to have any more kids after my sister because my sister got polio and she didn't want to have any more kids. She got pregnant with my brother and then she lost 5 children in between my brother and I. And I went back, looked at this on a spiritual level. And I came back to her and I said, hey, Mom, I said, all those children you got rid of, because she did, were me. And she said, I'm sorry. And she started to cry. And I said, don't be sorry, Mom. I said, I was coming no matter what you did. And she was just shaking and crying. And I said, it's okay, Mom. I came in to give you peace. And she said, you did that. She said, you were a peaceful child. You were the best child ever. But she never wanted me. She never wanted me. And I never let her get away with that. I made her. And this is what the kids are going to do. So if you're going to see you're going to see a baby boom happen shortly. And it's going to be interesting because all these people who are jabbed, there's going to be babies, a lot of them. I don't know what they're going to be, but we're going to have to work with them and help them, aren't we?
Yes.
Whatever has to happen. I'm ready. I'm making medicines. I've got medicines. I'm ready to do whatever has to be done when the time comes. And I will be even more ready. I've started working with a group in town here called Ezra Wellness, and it's going all over global. It's a great big organization of people who are doing what they can to help because the medical system's going down the tubes. Yeah. So I'm working with them doing healing work and sharing what I know and everything. I've been doing this for such a long time, between the wild crafting and the body work and the readings and the healings and the writings. I've been doing it for so long that it's now such a part of me that I can't do anything else. I can't be anything else. I have to just be in integrity doing what I'm doing. And that feels good.
Well, you're doing what you're called upon.
Mhm.
And you've had a lot of lifetimes of practicing with herbal tinctures and things like that, it's second nature to you.
Yep.
And talking about the preparing for, the baby boom, we all have to be zipped up in our energies and honing our own craft here and opening up this essence of pathways to physical and spiritual sensories that are our divine right. And because in doing so, then we're going to find our path on, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be over here with this group, and then I'm supposed to hover over here onto this group. And we find our place because so many things are changing. And we're the new waivers for, the new earth, for lack of a better expression, because we're not rebirthing anything. We're literally, they show me like cleaning the whiteboard. They always show me cleaning the whiteboard, and then you write something on there and that's a lesson. And if you're not happy with it, erase it, start again, keep going, redo it, just be a lot of love. I do the Ho'oponopono as well. So
Me too.
I'm on that all the time.
I do that every night. Every night I do it. Yeah.
Well, I was energetically spiritually taught in the 90s when I had my massage center, and I had it in a very sterile medical building. So I had to pass all the being invited to own a suite in there, and nobody else did that at the time. Everyone worked out of their homes or whatever.
Yep.
And so I infused the whole office with the energies, and it took a little while. People snubbed me at first when I was coming in and out, things like that, but it became such a haven. People in the building would just come. I'd come out from seeing clients, and someone would be sitting in my reading. I'm sorry, I just needed to decompress. But the energy. But going back to the other part was when I'd be in the room with someone, that's when spirit guides would show up, or family members or whatever. And of course, I had not remembered that happening to me this lifetime, but I was never scared.
No.
But I always knew to ask, okay, is this something I need to tell this client? And for the longest time, it was a no. And then until I was able to, they gave me permission to tell a client. And she said, I described her deceased father and her deceased mother, who I didn't know, and what their messages were. And from then on out, I would say 15% of my practice was strictly the energy work, and the other was body work. And then, but interesting stuff when we really look into what we know. I mean, when I tell people certain stories, they're like, oh, it's like past life regression. It's like, why would that scare you? I mean, if you really want to go into who you are, the only thing that's going to come up is something that's going to help you right now.
Well, the big thing for us to all remember is anytime we get into spirituality, because everybody says, oh, as soon as you become spiritual, it's just a wonderful experience. What a crock.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, who's candy coating something like that to look good to someone else?
It's shocking. It's radical. It's frightening. It's mind bending. And then you have to try and talk everybody in your reality that you're doing this now. Well, that isn't such a fun thing, because everybody looks at you and goes, well, I don't want to do that with you. Well, so you do it by yourself or whatever. You're with your whole, I mean, I remember one day my spirit guide said to me, well, you've got to quit your job and you got to do this. I mean, I made a lot of money and I was very influential in everything at my job. And I sat down at the dining room table with the family one night and I said, well, I'm going to quit my job. And we had to pull every one of them off the ceiling, because I shouldn't have done that. I should have done it more from a spiritual level, like I'm going to quit my job and it's your idea, And so my husband got up and left the room. He was so mad at me. And my daughter, who was about 18 or 17, looked at me and she said, what the hell did you just do? And I went, I don't know. I said, I was told to do it. And she goes, my God, Mom, you just jumped into that both feet and didn't even give us a warning, And so I stepped back from that and I went back to my husband. I said, I said, I'll wait until you're ready. So what I did was I went under the table and I started saying, okay, I've quit my job now and you're happy about it. And it's your idea. It took me about 6 months. And one day he looks at me and he says, I thought you were quitting your job. When are you going to do that? Instantly.
And so
I said,
tell me something. I mean, it's typical for a husband to react that way. I was married to one for a while, although he was supportive of a lot of things, but he didn't want me to go too woo-woo because it wouldn't fit into the country club and some other things that we would do. And I'm like, okay. But the 18-year-old who said that, how long did it take her to look back and actually see the courage it took to follow that inner guidance?
I don't think she ever did look.
Oh.
No, I don't think she ever did. My kids went the opposite direction of me, and that's fine. We all have our path.
Absolutely.
And I know darn well you've got a window between 35 years old to 50 to wake your spirit. That's about the timeline that people do it, right? So they're both in their early, one's 41, the other one's 43. They're still in that timeline. So they still have time. I'm not interfering. I just don't. But it's interesting. Yeah, because it's not my path. I can't interfere with it. It's theirs. So they're doing what they're doing and I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's okay. But it's very interesting because, for a lot of years, there has been no acceptance of what I do, but I still do it. I do it anyway. And I know that my challenge in this lifetime, my life lesson in this lifetime, is to follow my spirit and do what I have to do. And I did it in a timely way because as my kids grew up and became adults, that's when I really jumped in harder because I wanted to make sure that they were safe and grown up and I don't have to be an overseer any longer. They can run and do what they have to do. And I can now run and do what I have to do. So I took my freedom before they were still in high school, but I still took my freedom because I knew that my challenge was in this lifetime, because other lifetimes, I've only had 47 lives. I haven't had a lot. A lot of people average between 250 to 350. I've had 47. I've only been on this planet a few times. And the reason being is because I only come when there's work to do. Something has to be changed. That's when I arrive. And so I arrived in this lifetime knowing fully well that I was going to be challenged by my family about what I do. And my choice would be, would I continue to do it and do what is for the greater good of the earth and humankind? Or would I sit back and let them influence me further to not do it? Because that's what's shut me down other times. I can't do that any longer. So in this lifetime, I love my family dearly. I talk to them all the time. I do everything I'm supposed to. They don't agree with anything I'm doing, but I've told them that they need to accept it and leave it, or we have no relationship. So it's hard because I love them so much and I don't want to not have a relationship with them, but I know that there is a time where I have to be silent for a while till this is done.
Sure. I'm sure a lot of people listening right now, including myself, can truly relate to that.
We all have to do it. It's if it's your life, you do it,
Yes. Well, before we conclude, because we're definitely going to have to do part 2, because there's so much here that needs to be shared with everyone out there, and we all learn from each other. So we have to do a part 2. But for today, before we say goodbye, is there anything that you just parting words, and then, where can people reach you? And of course, I'll post the links.
You can reach me on Mind, Body, Spirit Healing Group. You can also friend me on Facebook. I've got no issues with that. You can reach me anywhere on Facebook like crazy, on Messenger as well. And you can email me at Severin, SEVERN 2000 @gmail.com if you want to write to me. I'm very accessible and I'm also very open, and I do my lives. I'm doing one today in 3 hours, and I'll be doing that on Mind, Body, Spirit, but I do share it with other groups. And then I will be, the big thing I want to say to people is go on to my site, and I will post it again today. Get rid of the reptilian brain, which is located in your brain, your thymus, your thyroid, your heart, your stomach, and your reproductive organs. Get rid of it because it doesn't belong to you. It never did. And it is what causes you to have fear. It's what causes you to have trepidation about any changes in the world, because you're actually being programmed with it. So remove it. I have a thing written up about it. I will share it again today so people can do it, because I feel that is the most important part, because that gives you the free thinking and the free feeling, rather than something telling you what you have to know and believe. You know, it changes your whole everything.
So now that you just said that, so I think, and just agree or disagree, but I think we get confused with ego and reptilian stuff, because they're really one and the same.
They are, but reptilian with ego is human ego.
Mm-hmm.
Removing it, it becomes super ego. So you now is God self. It takes
Yeah.
that out, and that activates the higher self.
Yeah.
It activates. It removes the angelic realm, and it brings you into your power center, rather than being a victim any longer. You're no longer a victim, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to
Yeah.
tune into that, because that's so interesting and I want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Julie Severn, this has been a pleasure. And to all our viewers out there, we will definitely do a part 2 for this. Julie's links will be in the description. She'll also be posting it out on her information platforms. And many blessings to you. And we'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.